Welcome into NFL Daily Live here on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Folks, thank you guys so much for joining us here for about the next hour and a half or so to talk some football around the National Football League. We're approaching Week 11 here. It's going to be Ravens and Bengals tonight on Thursday Night Football, and I want to welcome you guys in. My name is Jack Sperry, your host for today's live show, and we've got a great show lined up for you guys. First, we're going to get into the latest NFL news and rumors. We're going to be talking about Bill Belichick potentially going to the Los Angeles Chargers if he's fired by the Pats. We're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers potentially coming back in mid-December and finishing out the 2023 campaign with the New York Jets. And then also in our last segment today, make sure you guys stick around because I'm going to be going over the current NFL playoff picture before Week 11. And then I'm going to give you my updated predictions as to which teams are going to end up making the playoffs here in 2023. And then also, you can get your questions. You got something you want to ask me here that you want to get on the show, we're going to be doing a Q&A, I'd say probably in about 30 minutes or so. So make sure you use hashtag NFL or Super Chat to get your question on today's show. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Again, hashtag NFL or Super Chat to get your question on today's program. Also, today's live show is brought to you in part by GameTime. You can download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code NFL Chat, one word, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase today. And then also, this stream is also sponsored by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a $100 deposit match, up to $100 deposit match today. Thank you so much to Prize Picks and GameTime for sponsoring today's show. So without further ado here, let's get into our first segment of the day today, which is the latest news and rumors coming around the National Football League. I see 37 people in here right now. I want to give a couple of shout outs before we get things going. What's up, Cameron? What's up, Lee? What's up, Jero? What's up, SG? What's up, XD Gamer 22? Let's see who else is in here. Get in the comment section. I'll give you a shout out. I see Scott. I see Roman. I see Lore. I see Juan Hernandez says, what's up, Jack? What's up, Juan? It's good to see you, my man. All right, now, let's get into today's content without further ado. The latest, all right, producer Tex is telling me 1 second here, so we'll give him a second here to get going. All right, now he says we're good. Let's get into this first segment today, the latest news and rumors around the National Football League. Could Bill Belichick be on his way to the City of Angels? A recent report has linked him to the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to be discussing that on today's edition of NFL Daily. And then also, we're going to be discussing when will Aaron Rodgers return to the New York Jets? Will he return at some point during this 2023 season? And then also, I'm going to tell you why firing Ken Dorsey, the Bills offensive coordinator, or at least former Bills offensive coordinator, was a bad idea by the Buffalo Bills. Can't wait to break it all down with you guys today. But before we get things going, make sure you click that subscribe button for daily and free NFL analysis right here on YouTube, right here on Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Now let's get into today's news and rumors, starting with Bill Belichick, where there's a recent report that came out earlier this week that Belichick wants to come to LA to be the next head coach / GM of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, of course, two things are going to need to happen for this to happen, right? The Patriots are going to have to part ways with Belichick at this point with the way that New England season is going. Certainly seems like Belichick is going to be on the open market. And then also the Chargers are going to have to part ways with Brandon Staley. And because the Chargers are currently sitting outside the current playoff picture right now at 4-5, if they miss the playoffs with the kind of roster talent that they have there in LA, I think Brandon Staley is likely gone. So this is definitely something that's possible, and I do think it's something that makes sense for Bill Belichick. So you look at the reasons here. You got a young, promising QB with unlimited arm talent here when Justin Herbert, okay? Justin is going to be one of the more favorable quarterbacks in the National Football League to start a career with if you're an NFL head coach candidate, right? So if they end up firing Brandon Staley, this Chargers job is once again going to be one of the more valuable and more reasonable jobs available around the National Football League. Also, the Chargers have multiple core pieces everywhere along this offense and defensive roster. You still got Derwin James, Joey Bosa. Of course, we mentioned Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. Keenan Allen is still kicking in there, and Quentin Johnson is a very talented young wide receiver as well. Also got Rashawn Slater, a nice building block on the offensive line there at left tackle. And Belichick also reportedly loves California. He loves the beach. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say I would have called Belichick somebody that I would expect to love California, especially LA. But according to a report of someone close to him, he wants to come into LA and he wants to be the next Chargers head coach and GM. Now, my take on this, when it comes to Bill Belichick, there's a lot of people that are disrespecting him right now. Lots of people are saying, oh, you know, it was all Tom Brady. Bill Belichick is overrated as a head coach. And I think that, you know, those people are kind of being prisoners of the moment a little bit. The Patriots stink right now, but you look back at Belichick's career, I mean, 3 of the Super Bowls that he has won with the Patriots was because the defense helped in a significant way, right? You look at that Rams Super Bowl with Tom Brady, the last one in New England. You know, it was Bill Belichick's defense that was shutting down Sean McVay. You guys remember how low scoring that game was, and it was Belichick, not Brady, that was really responsible for winning that football game on the game's biggest stage. And then also early in Tom Brady's career, before he really became the perennial MVP candidate and the GOAT, right? It was the defense in the early years of that Patriots dynasty that was getting the job done. Bill Belichick is still one of, if not the best defensive mind in the history of the National Football League. You don't have the amount of success that you have as an organization like the New England Patriots without a great head coach and defensive mind like Bill Belichick, but he sucks as a GM. He can't build a team, and really, I just don't think it's really feasible for anybody in the National Football League to both be a head coach and lead the front office. I just don't think it's a feasible job. I think there's just too many moving parts here. I think you've seen that with the Patriots because their roster talent has completely deteriorated over the last several years that Belichick has been the GM. So I really think if Belichick wants to get back to winning Super Bowls, he needs to humble himself here, man. He needs to go to the next team and say, you know what? I want to partner with a GM. I don't want to do everything myself. He has to humble himself at this point in his career. I think he's arguably the greatest head coach in the history of the game, but he's a head coach. He's not a GM. So if I were Belichick, I would humble myself. I'd say, you know what? I just want to coach. I don't want to go over the day-to-day front office stuff. That's just too much work on my plate, and I'm going to focus on bringing my next team a world championship. Now, what's your take on the whole idea of a head coach being a GM? Do you think head coaches should ever be the GM of their teams? Type yes or type no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question with a yes or a no. Now let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. And listen, we've heard all the rumors, and we've seen the photos, and we've seen the videos of Aaron Rodgers just months off of that Achilles surgery, throwing footballs, walking around, looking relatively healthy. And, Rodgers is somebody that's going on the Pat McAfee show and talking to reporters and saying all these different things about how he wants to be back by mid-December. He told the Pat McAfee show this week that he's expected to be back with the Jets full-time by Thanksgiving. So that's late November, and he's going to be eyeing a return for mid-December, maybe week 15, 16. So if the Jets are still there in the playoff race, it's absolutely possible that Aaron Rodgers could return this year if the rehab continues to go well. And let me just tell you, man, with somebody that's this old, somebody that's this age, recovering this quickly, this is absolutely unheard of. And, and when it comes to like human physiology, right, human biology, we just don't see people this old recover this fast from this type of injury. He must be getting some sort of like special stem cell or something crazy expensive done to his Achilles to make it recover faster than normal. But, modern medicine is truly a marvel, and it's looking like Aaron Rodgers could be in play to start playing again this season, which would be an absolute crazy thing to happen, right? So he has made remarkable progress to this point. Like I said, he told the Pat McAfee show that he'll be back full-time with the Jets by Thanksgiving. And the big question is here, is he actually going to return by mid-December? I think it's really going to come down to this. If the Jets are in the playoff race, those final couple weeks of the season, he'll be back. If they're not and they're out of the playoff picture, they're going to play it safe, and Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jets Week 1 during the 2024 season. with a 100% healthy. So now coming up here, I'm going to predict whether or not Aaron Rodgers will actually play for the New York Jets this season. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor at GameTime, the only ticketing app that I have on my phone. Personally, guys, I'm somebody that loves to get tickets last minute, whether it's a concert with my girlfriend, whether it's an MLB baseball game or NBA basketball game with the boys. I love to get last-minute tickets, and GameTime's perfect for that because not only do they have the lowest price guarantee, so you don't have to go to all these different ticketing apps to find the best price, but also they got flash deals right before game time that make things so much easier and makes it even better, makes the prices go even lower. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seats before you buy them so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are also sent directly to your phone, another great feature, so you never have to dig through your email to get your tickets. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NFLChat. That's one word, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NFLChat. One word, all caps, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, my personal opinion here is I do not think that the New York Jets are going to be in position to make the playoffs by the time that Rodgers is healthy enough to play. So I think that at the end of the day here, the Jets are going to play it safe. They're going to say, Aaron, heal up, make sure you're 100% ready to go next year's training camp, and we'll see you next year. And then, with the defense, with the way that defense is playing, with Garrett Wilson still being as young as he is, Breece Hall is really good as a running back as well. The offensive line, when healthy, is going to be nice. Right, next season, the New York Jets prospects look really, really good, especially if we get the MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers that we're so accustomed to seeing when he was playing in Green Bay. Now, will he come back? Let me know your prediction down there in the comment section. Will Aaron Rodgers play again here in 2023? Type P if you think he's going to play, or type S if you think the Jets are going to sit him. All right, next topic here. Let's go over Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, or former offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, who got fired after that Monday Night Football embarrassment to the Denver Broncos. And you know what? I have a bad taste in my mouth from this move, all right? Because I don't think it was Ken Dorsey's fault that they lost that football game. And I don't think it's his fault that this team is currently sitting where they're sitting in the AFC playoff picture right now, which is currently outside of the playoff picture, right? So you look at the offensive stats this year, everything is in the top 10. Points per game, yards per play, yards per game, third down percentage, and red zone percentage. And a lot of these are in the top 5 as well. This is a good offense right now, right? Like, they give up the football too much, right? We all know about the turnovers with Josh Allen. They fumbled it a bunch of times against Denver on Monday night last week. We all understand that. And they've definitely given away some games. But I don't think it's on Ken Dorsey's. I think it's more on Sean McDermott. It's more on the team as a whole. I think they really miss Leslie Frazier as their defensive play caller. And I really do think this is going to turn out to be a mistake for Buffalo. I think this offense might even get worse to this point because Joe Brady's coming in. You have this little bit of an unstable dynamic right now in that offensive play caller chair when you had stability there, right? And all you really had to do is get Josh Allen to kind of clean things up a little bit, if that's even possible. All you had to do is not put 12 freaking people on the field when Will Lutz misses the game-winning field goal, right? These are just the things that the Buffalo Bills need to get right, and I think that they're addressing the problem in the wrong way here by firing Ken Dorsey. Now, if you want more NFL opinions and analysis on X or Twitter, whatever you guys want to call it, you can check me out at Jack_Sperry. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. So if you want some more NFL content from me on Twitter, go ahead, check me out at Jack_Sperry. Now, before I say goodbye, there's some pretty interesting dynamics at the quarterback position going around in the league right now, starting in Cleveland. And listen, if you haven't heard about the Deshaun Watson season-ending shoulder surgery to this point, I think you're living under a rock. But yes, Deshaun Watson's going to be out for the rest of the season, going to go under shoulder surgery. And now the big question is, does Cleveland, sitting at 6-3 and third place in the AFC North, actually have a shot to make the playoffs? Because right now they're right in the thick of the AFC playoff picture. They're the number 6 seed in the AFC right now. However, I think that this conference is going to be too difficult for Cleveland with Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming in to really get things going. I think Cleveland's in trouble. I think that with the Chargers and the Bills and all these different good teams, and the Bengals for that matter in the division, that are still behind them in the AFC playoff picture, I just don't see Dorian Thompson-Robinson, as good as he was in the preseason. I think that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to take his lumps in his rookie year. I think that when he already had the opportunity to play this year in the regular season against the Baltimore Ravens, he was absolutely terrible in that football game. I mean, granted, the Ravens are a really good defense. Granted, the Ravens are a really good defense, all these different things. He was told the morning of the game that he was going to play. But look at these stats, man. It was just absolutely awful. 19 of 36, 121 yards passing, no touchdowns to 3 interceptions. I mean, if this trend continues for the rest of the season, the Browns are going to start taking losses big time, and I just don't see them holding on to the wild card spot by week 18 of the 2023 NFL season. So sorry, Cleveland Browns fans. I think it's looking pretty bleak unless you make a big move at the quarterback position. Now let's go to the New York Giants, where there's now a report that the Giants are going to keep Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll, and GM Joe Schoen in place next year. Joe Schoen next year. And I just think this is absolutely nuts. Now, I agree with keeping Daboll, all right? He was the coach of the year back in 2022, right? He was one of the more highly sought-after head coaching prospects. According to the report, the Giants really like his culture, all these different things. But when it comes to Daniel Jones, committing to Daniel Jones already to be the starting quarterback next year is absolutely asinine. I know that the contract situation is bad with Daniel Jones, but I think you're just going to have to eat that, right? I think that if you have a high enough draft pick, you have the opportunity to get either Caleb Williams or Drake May or maybe even Bobby Penix Jr., early in the first round, I think you got to take that opportunity and you just got to bite the bullet and make Daniel Jones the backup quarterback at this point. I mean, Daniel Jones is not a good NFL quarterback. He doesn't push the ball down the field. He's very a game manager-ish. And this year, he wasn't even that. I mean, last year, he had a really high completion percentage. He did a really good job protecting the football. This year was the exact opposite. And the offensive line has never been good for DJ. I completely acknowledge that. But as somebody that watches the film on all these guys, Daniel Jones is not a good NFL quarterback, and he's not like he's somebody that's going to elevate this Giants roster moving forward. I think if Brian Daboll wants that chance to prove that he is the guy that can bring another Super Bowl to the Meadowlands, I think he's got to get a new quarterback. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Is it time? Should the Giants get a new starting quarterback for the 2024 season, whether it be in the draft, trade, free agency? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Type R if you want to replace Jones, or type K if you want to keep him. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button for more NFL news and rumors coverage for free here on YouTube every single day. All right, so that's our first segment in the book. We got 57 people watching right now. Make sure you get your questions in right now. Hashtag NFL or Super Chat to get on today's mailbag, all right? I already see a couple questions coming in, so let's make this thing go. Let's get some more questions in there. My producer Tex is saying we still need a couple more questions. So if you got something you want to say, if you got a prediction, if you've got a question that you want me to answer, make sure you get hashtag NFL or Super Chat down there in the chat. We'll get things going for you. So I see one from Al Francisco. Says here, it's unlikely Daniel Jones gets moved to QB2 when he's getting paid $40+ million a year. I understand that, Al Francisco, but at the same time, he's not a good enough quarterback to have as your starting quarterback. So the Giants are in a real pickle here. I acknowledge that the contract situation is not good, and they're in a lot of trouble right now. But if you're asking me if I'd rather pay $40+ million to my backup and have a rookie quarterback that I actually believe in, or play the $40 million quarterback even though I know he stinks, I'm going to go with the rookie quarterback, especially if it's Caleb Williams or Drake May. All right, so if you're getting one of those top flight, tier 1 level quarterback prospects and you really believe in him, and you think he can be Brian Daboll's next Josh Allen, you got to pull the trigger on that, man. I just don't see any other way they can get around that, because I don't believe in Daniel Jones. He can't push the ball down the field. He's not particularly super accurate when he throws it beyond 20 yards of air yards. So I think he's somebody that could potentially be a game manager, a good backup. But goodness gracious, man, like this guy's not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I think we all see that at this point. And if the Giants get to the point where they have a chance to pick in the top 2 and take one of the top 2 quarterbacks in next year's draft, with all due respect, man, I really do think that's what they have to do. All right, Tex is telling me I got enough questions here, so let's get into the mailbag. You're good? All right, Tex is telling me that we're good. Let's get it going right now with the NFL Daily Mailbag coming at you right now. It is week 11 in the 2023 NFL season, and today I'm going to be answering your questions on the latest news and rumors surrounding the National Football League. But before we get into the questions today, make sure you click that subscribe button right now, because right here on the Chat Sports YouTube channel, we got daily NFL videos for free. If you want the best analysis here on YouTube, 100% free of charge, make sure you click that subscribe button. Also, we got weekly live shows. This mailbag is actually filmed during our weekly live show on Thursday. So if you enjoy live content, want to get involved with these mailbags, get your questions on the show, make sure you click that subscribe button. We also do NFL power rankings and mock drafts every single week here on the channel. So if you love the NFL, you want more content for free here on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. So now let's start with a question from Lore, who says, what should the Rams do if they don't make it to the playoffs? So right now, they're sitting at just 3 wins, right? I think they're at 3-6 right now. And I look at the Rams, and they still got some nice pieces, right? They still got Matthew Stafford. They just brought in Puka Nacua to pair with Cooper Kupp. That's a really good duo. And, you got Aaron Donald there in the middle. And some of the players that they drafted, the young players that they drafted this year, are actually turning into pretty decent players. Now, I think that they view themselves as still 1 year away. I still think that next year they're going to hang on to Matthew Stafford. They're going to hang on to Aaron Donald. They're going to hang on to Cooper Kupp. And they're going to try to build a little bit more around these young pieces that they brought in last year in the draft. They're going to stock up on draft picks. They're going to spend a little money in free agency, and they're going to try to make another run here with Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and company heading into next year. And you know what? I actually think that that's feasible for them. I think give them another year with this collection of young talent that they have, along with their veterans that have already won a Super Bowl. I think the Rams could potentially be a playoff threat for the 2024 season. Then we got one from Cameron Briglin. Says, do you think Joe Brady calling the plays for the Bills could turn the season around after firing Ken Dorsey? Personally, Cameron, I just don't know how firing Ken Dorsey fixes any of their problems, right? Ken Dorsey isn't making bad decisions for Josh Allen to throw interceptions. He's not forcing them to fumble the football at the rate that they're fumbling the football, right? He's not the one responsible for putting 12 players on a freaking field goal block unit when the opposing team misses the game-winning field goal, giving them another chance, right? So all these different things that are happening to the Bills, it's not necessarily on the offense. The offense is ranking in the top 10 in pretty much every important offensive category right now other than turnovers. So right now, I just don't know how Joe Brady coming in now just fixes everything. Now, is it possible that the Bills turn things around? Absolutely. But is it going to be because you fired Ken Dorsey? I really don't see that. Then we got one from KP to DTR, or KP is better than DTR. I love that. It says, who is an underrated team that you think turns it on in the second half of the year? So Buffalo is definitely a team that could do it, sitting at 5-5. They've given up 3 games to the Jets, the freaking Patriots, and then last week to Denver. They easily should have won all 3 of those football games. They could easily be sitting at 8-2. The offense is really going well. The defense is still good. So Buffalo could definitely be a team, but also watch out for the Los Angeles Chargers. They're sitting at 4-5, but the offense is top 10 in most key offensive categories. The defense is third in third down defense. They're susceptible to the big play, but Justin Herbert is a special talent. That offense is starting to get things going, and I really do think in the second half of the season, the Chargers could be a surprise team that sneaks into the playoffs. Now, let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Which NFL team is being slept on and will surge down the stretch? Let me know down there in the comment section who you think is going to be the surprise team of the second half of the NFL season. Let me on from Juan Hernandez here. Says, can the Raiders still make the playoffs? Absolutely, they could. Will they? I'm not putting my money on it, all right? Plain and simply, you look at their rankings and all these different offensive categories, third down offense, third down defense, red zone, all these different things that you look at. that good teams do, the Raiders don't do those things. Now, they're sitting at 5-5, so they're firmly in the AFC playoff race right now. They're 2-0 under interim head coach Antonio Pierce. So who knows what's going to happen, right? And they've got some good players. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby are among the best at their respective positions. But listen, they got a rookie quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. It's an interim head coach. Defense is not particularly great outside of Robert Spillane and Max Crosby. So if you're asking me if I think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs in a loaded AFC, unfortunately, I have to say no. Then we got one from Michael Contanzaro. Hope I'm saying that right, my friend. Says, you think McDaniels would come back as Patriots offensive coordinator? I think he would if they keep Belichick. And, I've already proposed that I think the Patriots should hold on to Belichick, right? I think what they should do is they should approach Belichick and say, hey, man, you're not doing a great job as the GM. It seems like it's a little bit too much on your plate, but we still believe in you as a head coach. Here's what I would propose. You take away his GM title, just make him the head coach. Bring back Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, then hire a dedicated GM to handle the front office stuff. I think if you do that, this roster can continue to accumulate more talent, and Belichick has more time doing what he's actually good at, which is game planning, preparing for opponents, all these different things. He's a genius at that kind of stuff. So I think that if I were Robert Kraft, I would just take away the GM responsibilities from Bill Belichick. But it really does seem like Bill is going to get fired, and they're going to part ways, and he might even end up in Los Angeles. Wherever Bill Belichick goes, though, I think Josh McDaniels is going to be his offensive coordinator. Now, coming up here, we got more NFL questions that I'm going to be answering from you, the fans of Chat Sports. But before we get into that, I want to tell you about today's sponsor at Prize Picks. And let me tell you, man, ever since we started partnering with Prize Picks, I have not been able to put this app down. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you're looking for a way to spice up your game days this NFL season, get started with Prize Picks. It's a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And you might be asking yourselves, Jack, how does this work? Well, here's how you play daily fantasy sports. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So let's take a look at my picks for this weekend's football game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. I'm doing my picks all on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right now, Kenny Pickett's at 193.5 pass yards. I think he'll get more than that. Najee Harris at 48.5 rush yards. I think he's going to get less than that. I think Jaylen Warren has been a really special player for Pittsburgh this year. I think Najee's going to take a step back. And then George Pickens, 41.5 receiving yards. I'm going to take the more on that. I think he's a special player, and he's going to have a nice week. You can check it out now and get your picks in today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right away and get your picks in before football starts this weekend. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS for a deposit match up to $100 today. Got one from Ryan here. Says, should the Steelers start Jaylen Warren over Najee? And how will they handle the running back situation this offseason? So this is a really good question, Ryan. For those of you that don't know, I am our Steelers host here at Chat Sports. And listen, Jaylen Warren has been really, really good for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. He's been a lot more dynamic than Najee Harris has been so far this year. And I think moving forward, they're going to continue to feed both running backs. I think that it's going to be more of a true committee. I don't think there's going to be a true number one running back here. I think this is definitely a Thunder and Lightning type of combination where you got the Thunder with Najee Harris, the bigger running back that's more for like the goal line situations, third and short, but can also come in if Jaylen Warren needs a break. But Warren has just been such a dynamic playmaker. I compare him a little bit to Austin Eckler because he does a lot of things really well at a small size, right? He's got great vision, great short area burst. He's a good receiver, great pass blocker on third downs as well. So I think that there's a role for both of these guys in the Steelers offense. Right now, the Steelers offense has been getting it going a little bit in the run game the last 2 weeks. Kenny Pickett, maybe a little bit of a different situation. But this offseason, I think they're going to decline Najee Harris's fifth-year option. I think that because Jaylen Warren is really coming on the scene, they're not going to want to pay both of those guys at the same time. And they're going to say, Najee, we'll have you for one more year, but Jaylen Warren is our guy moving forward. Then we go on from Bang 49ers. Says, who do you think wins the NFC South this year? So I really do think it's going to be a battle between the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, I think Tampa Bay, a little bit on a lower tier. Carolina's kind of in that same lower tier, in my opinion. But New Orleans, a little bit more balanced than Atlanta is, but I think Atlanta might be the more well-rounded team if you look at it in the aggregate. Atlanta can really run the football. If you look at the major offensive and defensive categories, team stats, they don't really rank bottom 10 in any category, which is a really good thing to have if you're an NFL football team. So I'm going to say the Atlanta Falcons right now, but it could definitely be either New Orleans or Atlanta moving forward. All right, now let me know what you guys think. Who wins the NFC South here in 2023? Is it New Orleans, type NO? Is it Atlanta, type ATL? Do Tampa Bay or Carolina come back? Type TB for Tampa or CAR for Carolina. Then we got one from Bulls Nation here. He says, Chargers should fire Brandon Staley and get Kellen Moore elevated as the permanent head coach. That's an interesting idea there, Bulls Nation. I think if they fire Brandon Staley, it's going to be because they missed the playoffs. All right, so if they make the postseason, he's not getting fired. But if they miss the playoffs, I think they'll fire Brandon Staley. And if you believe the reports coming out of the Bill Belichick camp right now, Belichick wants to come to L.A. Now, is the Chargers organization going to say no to Bill Belichick, a six-time world champion head coach, in favor of Kellen Moore? I really don't see that happening. I like the idea. Kellen Moore's an interesting head coaching candidate, still a little bit young. He's interviewed with a lot of teams, hasn't gotten a job yet. That scares me a little bit. But I look at this situation, and Kellen Moore in the offense is definitely the best part of this Chargers team right now. Seems like Justin Herbert likes playing in his offense, so I actually don't hate this idea one bit. Then we got one from Dirty Birds, and he says, predict the Super Bowl matchup and who will win the whole thing. So if I'd have to pick it right now, I've been saying Eagles over the last several weeks, but after I really took a deep dive into the team stats this week to see where everybody stacked up, and the Eagles' defense is actually not quite as good as you might think that it is. It's a little bit below average to NFL standards in most defensive categories. So I'm actually going to say the San Francisco 49ers get out of the NFC. And you know what? I'm going to say either Baltimore or Kansas City. For this purposes, I'm going to say Baltimore. No, I'm going to go Kansas City. I'll go San Francisco, Kansas City, and then I'll go Patrick Mahomes. I can't bet against Mahomes, man. I just can't. I know that they don't have a true number one receiver outside of Travis Kelce right now, but that defense is humming. The Mahomes-Kelce duo is unstoppable. So if I have to pick one team right now to win the whole thing, I got to go with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs yet again. Now, predict it for me down there in the comment section. Give us your Super Bowl predictions, 2 teams that are going to make it, and then the 1 team that's going to win it all. Put your score predictions, if you want, down there in the comments. Let me know who you think is going to win the World Championship this season. That'll be it for this week's Mailbag, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now for more NFL news and rumors analysis for free here on YouTube. All right, segment number 2 in the bag. We got one more. Got one more to go here. So let's talk a little bit here while we get this next segment ready about the Baltimore Ravens versus Cincinnati Bengals football game tonight on Thursday Night Football. Make sure you get your prize picks in before the game tonight. All right, make sure you guys get that done. Now, this is definitely going to be an interesting matchup to me, okay, because you got Baltimore, who I consider probably the most statistically dominant team in the National Football League, all right? When you just look at the numbers, Baltimore is probably the best team in this league right now. But then you got Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow's been playing better. You're not going to have T. Higgins tonight, but you still got Jamar Chase. The defense does a really good job at turning the football over. If Baltimore has any weakness on offense, it's that they turn the ball over too much. So, if you told me today that Cincinnati is going to come out and pull off the upset, I would believe you, because I think Cincinnati is going to be a really dangerous team. If they make the playoffs this year, if they can sneak in as a wild card, I think they're really the only wild card team that I could really see making a run for a Super Bowl this year with Joe Burrow, with the way that they've played against the Kansas City Chiefs traditionally, where they usually have their number. I look at this team right now. They've already been to a Super Bowl. They've already been there. They've already done that. I think Cincinnati could be dangerous, but Baltimore is a really good team as well. So I look at Cincinnati. If they lose another game in the AFC North, they're going to be falling behind quite a bit. Baltimore is only a half game above both the Steelers and Browns this week. So if Baltimore loses tonight, The winner of Steelers-Browns this weekend is going to be first place in the AFC North moving forward, which is kind of crazy to think about. So if I'd have to pick one team tonight, I'm going to pick Baltimore. But I'm not going to be shocked if Cincinnati pulls off the upset. Let's see what you guys have to say. We got Juan Hernandez spamming Baltimore. We got Lee Reichenthal spamming Baltimore. We got Nodak saying Cincinnati. SM saying Cincinnati. Stephen Moses predicts San Francisco versus Kansas City. Kansas City wins it all. I agree with you, Moses. I think that Super Bowl matchup just seems like a good one this year. San Francisco, man, watch out for those guys. They crushed the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, and that pass rush is ravenous. Brock Purdy's doing a really great job. Now, if you get a lead on them, San Francisco can be vulnerable. But, man, the thing is, it's so damn tough to get a lead on San Francisco. All right, so coming up here, I got the NFL playoff picture to break down with you guys. So let's get into it right now here on NFL Daily. It is week 11 in the 2023 NFL season, and now we're going to be breaking down the NFC playoff picture before we get things going on Thursday Night Football tonight. So really can't wait to break this down and kind of give you guys my predictions for how the NFL playoff picture is going to shake out here in 2023. But before I get into my predictions, before we get into the current playoff picture here, make sure you go ahead and like today's video. Click that thumbs up icon if you're a real one and you want to help out the channel. So let's start with the NFC here, where we got the division leaders with Philly in the lead right now, best team in football record-wise at 8-1. The Lions currently at 7-2 at the number 2 spot. San Francisco at 6-3, and then the New Orleans Saints currently atop the NFC South at 5-5. Seattle is the 5th seed at 6-3. Dallas right behind them with the same record at the number 6 spot. And then the Minnesota Vikings at 6-4 at the number 7 seed. The next team in the hunt is a 4-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So right now, there's a little bit of cushion between those wild card teams and the teams in the hunt. Washington and Atlanta could absolutely still be in the hunt, especially Atlanta for the division there in the putrid NFC South. But any team that's really 3-6 or lower, Green Bay, Los Angeles, Chicago, I'm not really looking at them truly in the hunt at this point. Could Washington and Atlanta potentially make it back? Absolutely. Same thing with Tampa Bay, but it's definitely going to be an uphill battle at this point. Shifted over to the AFC, where you got the reigning Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, looking like they cannot be stopped. Number 1 in the AFC at 7-2. Ravens right behind them at 7-3. Jacksonville sitting at 6-3 in the 3rd spot, and then the Miami Dolphins sitting at 6-3 as well at the number 4 spot. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have been outgained in all 9 of their first games this season, currently sitting at 6-3. That's great coaching, if you ask me. Then you got the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson out for the season. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about the AFC North later in today's show. Doesn't look good for Cleveland. That's definitely in a vulnerable spot. Then Houston upset the Cincinnati Bengals on the road last week. C.J. Stroud looks like the bona fide franchise quarterback there in Houston. Cincinnati, Indy, Buffalo, Las Vegas are the next 4 teams out of the AFC playoff picture. Now coming up next, my updated playoff projections. I'm going to be going through every division, giving you guys my updated standing predictions for each division, and I'm going to tell you seeding predictions and wildcard predictions as well. So make sure you guys stick around. But first, let me know down there in the comments section, which NFL team will come out of nowhere this year to make the NFL playoffs. I want to know that team that you think is going to make a big-time surge. It's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get a second here, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me your team down there in the comments. All right, so now let's start with the NFC yet again, and let's start with the North. The NFC North, where nothing's changing here for me, man. I think Detroit's going to be the number 1 team in this division. I really like them. I think that they're much improved from last year defensively, and then Ben Johnson's got that offense humming. Minnesota with Joshua Dobbs, it's a great story. Definitely going to be a playoff contender after having this nice little cushion there in the NFC playoff picture. Green Bay, Chicago, not very good teams in my opinion. Then you get to the NFC East projection here. I think that Philly, really good football team. Dallas is going to be right there, though, all the way through, but I do think the Eagles will end up getting it. Eagles maybe a little bit overrated. The defense is a little bit lower ranked than I would have expected in many defensive categories. 3rd down defense, red zone defense, a little bit lower than I thought that it should be at this point in the year. Washington, interesting football team. They really need to start winning because they're sitting at 4-6, and Ron Rivera is trying to save his job. Then the New York Giants might be the worst football team in this league right now. Then you get to the NFC West projection here. San Francisco, I think, is really going to make a big-time surge here for that number 1 seed. You guys will see that in my projections here coming up. Seattle, maybe a little bit overrated. Not really great on third down. Not really good in terms of turnover ratio. Well, actually, no, not turnover, red zone. But overall, Seattle, decent football team. They can move the football quickly. Then Los Angeles, 3-6. They're going to stick where they are. And then Arizona with Kyler Murray. Very interesting and fun team to watch for the rest of the year. But the roster stinks. They're gonna finish last in this division. Then in the NFC South, I am going to switch things up here with really my only change from last week's list, where I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to make a surge in the second half, and they're going to overtake the NFC South crown from the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints have the better quarterback play of the two teams, but Atlanta, I think that they can run the football really well. Their defense does a pretty darn good job in the red zone and on third down. They're not really terrible in any category that you look at statistically, which is a really good sign of a playoff team. So although Atlanta, probably a first-round exit, I do think they're the best that this division has to offer. Tampa Bay and Carolina, at least in my opinion, definitely on a lower tier than the Falcons and Saints. So let these two teams battle it out, man. It's definitely going to be fun. So now the NFC division winners, I do think San Francisco makes this push, and they really put together a string of wins to really compete for that number 1 spot. Philly, really good football team, number 2 team in the NFC, I think is where they're going to end up. But I think the defense is going to cost them a couple of games. It's definitely going to be interesting to watch them versus Kansas City this weekend. Then you got Detroit, number 3, and then the NFC South champions, Atlanta Falcons, sitting in the number 4 spot. Now let's get to the wild card predictions here, where Dallas is going to be number 5. I think they're going to challenge Philly for the NFC East crown, especially if they keep winning here. But I don't trust them in the playoff setting. I don't trust Mike McCarthy. This is the most penalized team in the National Football League right now, dead last in the NFL in total penalties. So I really don't trust them as far as I can throw Mike McCarthy, but they're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to win a lot of football games. Then I got Seattle. I'm not the biggest fan of Seattle. I think they're probably a one-and-done exit again this year, but they're definitely talented. They're winning football games right now. They're in position to make the playoffs, so I'm going to have them making it. Then we got Minnesota. I don't think anything changes from where it's at right now. I do think Minnesota with Joshua Dobbs is going to be good enough to make the playoffs. Watch out for Washington. Maybe watch out for New Orleans here in this final wild card spot, but give me the Minnesota Magic here up north to make the NFL playoffs. Now coming up, I'm going to be going on to the AFC, but first I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is going to be GameTime, the only ticketing app that I have on my phone right now. And previously, guys, I used to have a bunch of different ticketing apps where I would compare the prices of like 4 or 5 different apps trying to get the lowest price. And then we started partnering with GameTime, and now I have deleted all of those other ticketing apps from my phone because they got the lowest price guarantee, so I don't have to keep shopping elsewhere. They got the lowest price guarantee on GameTime. Plus, they got flash deals right before the event. So if you're someone like me, likes to get last-minute tickets to MLB baseball games, concerts, hockey games, basketball games, whatever you can buy tickets for, GameTime has got it, and they've got great deals for you to take advantage of. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason, people. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds as well. All you need is 2 taps, and you have your tickets. Tickets are also sent directly to your phone, another great feature, so you never have to dig through your email to get your tickets ever again. So snag your tickets without the stress today with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code NFLChat, one word, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NFLChat, one word, all caps, for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now let's start with the AFC North here, where I do think Baltimore is going to hang on. Statistically, this is the most dominant team in the National Football League right now. Something changes, I'll change my rankings, but after a really good start to the year, I think Baltimore is going to finish atop the AFC North. Then you got Cincinnati. I do think they'll go on a second-half surge. They might lose tonight against the Baltimore Ravens, but at the end of the day, I do think that Cincinnati, as a wild card, could be particularly dangerous and potentially make a Super Bowl run from a wild card position. Pittsburgh, I think they win a lot of close football games. They're getting the run game going a little bit. The defense creates turnovers, but they give up a lot of yards on defense. Kenny Pickett and the passing game hasn't really been able to get going, and I worry that once they start playing some of these better teams, they still got the Bengals twice. They still got Seattle. They still got a lot of these really good football teams left out. They still got the Ravens another time. I just think they're going to take some losses here, and I really do think that their standing in the AFC playoff picture is going to be threatened. Then you got Cleveland. I think their season's done with DTR as the starting quarterback. With Deshaun Watson out for the rest of the year, this is a great defense, but the offense just isn't going to be able to put up yards and score points, so I got Cleveland finishing in last place. Then we get to the AFC East here, where I got the Miami Dolphins beating out the Buffalo Bills. Now, Buffalo, I think, is going to make a run of it. I think that they're going to win more football games in the second half of the year. I think that they had some really bad breaks go against them in the first half of the year, which is why they're sitting at 5-5. Really could be sitting at 8-2 at this point because they gave away wins to the Jets, the Patriots, and then the Denver Broncos last week on Monday Night Football. So Ken Dorsey's gone. Hopefully that's a positive change for them, and they end up making the playoffs. Then you got New York Jets. Similar to Cleveland, offense can't score points, but the defense is great. And then New England, everything is bad in New England right now. They're going to finish dead last. Then we got AFC West here. Kansas City, of course, dominates this division year in, year out. Nothing's going to change about that. I think Los Angeles, currently at 4-5, is going to move up and really make a nice surge in the second half, trying to get into the playoff picture. Denver is a team that is probably the most average team statistically that you will find. They are 14th to 17th in almost every single statistical category you can find when it comes to team stats. So they're very average. I think they'll win a couple more games, but at the end of the day, no playoffs for Denver. Then you got Las Vegas, and, it's been a nice run, Vegas. It's been a nice job getting to 5-5, 2-0 with your new interim head coach. But you got a rookie quarterback in Aiden O'Connell that's not playing overly well. The defense just doesn't have the talent to really deliver big-time victories in the second half of the year, in my opinion. So at the end of the day, I do think the Raiders will finish last place in this division. Then you get to the AFC South here, where I got the Houston Texans, number one over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know there's going to be some Jaguars fans that come after me for this, but I really like where Houston's going, man. C.J. Stroud really playing well, just upset the Cincinnati Bengals last week on the road. I think DeMeco Ryans has done a pretty darn good job with this defense as well. And Jacksonville, I think, is a little bit overrated. I think they got exposed a little bit last week versus the San Francisco 49ers. They're still going to be a playoff contender. They're going to be right in the thick of things. But this is definitely a team that could have a little bit of a collapse in the second half of the year. Indy, well-coached team, don't have enough talent, though. They're going to finish third, and then Tennessee just stinks all around. That offensive line is bad. The defense for a Mike Vrabel team is not up to his standard. Tennessee's going to finish last. Then for the division winners here, I'm going to have Baltimore finish first in this conference. I think that they're going to be a really good football team. Like I said, statistically, they're the most dominant team in football right now. Kansas City is going to be very solidly that number 2 spot. Still very much a Super Bowl contender. If I'd have to put my money on one team to win it right now, I'd probably put it on Kansas City just because I don't like betting against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to have Miami finish the year at third place with the NFC East Championship. Then Houston's going to get the number 4 seed for winning the South. Now, my wild cards. I'm going to start with the Buffalo Bills, all right? And this is because, just statistically, the Buffalo Bills should be 8-2, 7-3, somewhere in that range, because this is a damn good football team. Top 10 in almost every defense or offensive category. Defensively, they play very soundly. They're not a bad defense by any stretch of the imagination. So I really do think Buffalo, with a talent like Josh Allen, who's really doing a good job outside of the turnovers. He needs to clean those things up, but if he does that, I think this team's going to be damn good in the second half of the year. Number 6, I'm going to go with Cincinnati here just because I believe in the talent. The teams that I'm putting in my wild card situations here, I'm doing it based on talent and what I believe in right now, and I believe in the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow's awesome. Eventually, you're going to get T. Higgins back. You got Jamar Chase in there. The defense creates lots of turnovers. So is it a perfect team? No, but is this a team that could be really dangerous in a playoff setting in 8 weeks? Absolutely, 100%. Yes. And then, unfortunately, this pains me as the Steelers host here at Chat Sports, but I can't be a homer. I got to be objective here. And if I have to tell you between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who's the better football team right now, I have to say the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert is playing out of his mind the last couple of weeks. Even against a good defense last week in Detroit, he put up 38 points. Too bad his defense gave up 41, though. So I look at the Chargers. I think they're going to go on a second-half surge. They're third and third down defense, so their defense isn't quite as bad as you think. They're vulnerable to the big play, which means I think it's going to be another early-round exit for Los Angeles. But I really do like Justin Herbert. I like Kellen Moore. I like this team as a whole. They're not terrible in really many categories. either. So I do like LA. I think they're going to go on a little bit of a surge here. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see because right now I got Jacksonville and the Steelers missing the playoffs when those teams are firmly entrenched in the playoff picture right now. So I definitely think, when it comes to these three teams, you add Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, you pick any one, three of those five at this point. But let me know, who's more likely to miss the playoffs, all right? So right now, in the current playoff picture, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and New Orleans are all in the playoffs. I don't have them in my projections here for the end of the season. Which one is the most likely to miss the playoffs here in 2023? Type JAC if you think Jacksonville, type PIT if you think the Steelers, or if you think the Saints. Type NO down there in the comment section. All right, so that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. If you disagree with any of my takes, let me know down there in the comment section. I can't wait to hash it out with you guys. And until next time, guys, peace. All right, that's going to be it for our coverage today, my friends. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. I will catch you guys later. Mr. Tex, our producer, is going to be going on our Ravens watch party tonight. So if you want to see Texer, you can go check out Ravens Rundown for Thursday Night Football. From me and Tex, thank you guys so much for all of your support. We will see you guys later. Until next time, guys, peace.